Okay, wow. So I just finished the rough cut where I just got through all of the footage, and boy, does this video need an intro. So I filmed this video months ago with, I would say 99.9% of me had zero intention of ever posting this. So this was never supposed to see the world. I did it as a way to organize my thoughts, my feelings, emotions, feel like I could talk it out with myself, which might sound kind of crazy, but YouTube is my therapy. As I've said before, it's a form of expression, it's a form of storytelling. And there was just so much stuff that went on with this that I was getting lost in it myself, and I just wanted to try to organize it for myself, if that makes sense. So here we are months down the line, and I forget a lot of this because I've obviously gotten over this and moved on from it. And I decided, let me edit it and post it because you guys have wanted a story time for a long time, and this is my career. You know, my brand has been, I have a really dating life. So I thought, hey, let's post it. However, the more I got into the edit, the more, okay, first of all, some of the editing might seem a little jumpy or confusing, and there might be parts that might be a little bit weird or confusing to you. Because one, if I had any actual intention of posting this, I would have really written everything out and organized it like I do for most of my story times. But also, I had to edit a lot out for a few reasons. One, this guy left the Mormon church years ago. He was no longer a practicing Mormon. He doesn't believe in Mormonism anymore. His family is still very much Mormon. So in case some of his family watched this, there's some that they shouldn't see. Also, I don't want to cause problems in his personal life with things he said about people he knows, people he's done behind people's... I have no desire to fuck up this kid's life. I mean, that'll all catch up to him eventually. So if there's parts that are confusing or the editing is confusing, that's why, but I did the best I could with it. There's gonna be a couple parts where I jump in and explain what I was saying or something that I left out because, again, I didn't plan on posting this, so I didn't really organize it or think it out. When I decided to edit this, God, I didn't really imagine... This is like an emotional time capsule. If I was to film this today, the video would look very different. I would sound very different. I'm telling the story from a place of betrayal and sadness and anger. And I don't feel any of those things anymore. But also, the girl this was months ago is not the girl I am now. And it's honestly sad and kind of hard to see this. Like, this wasn't that long ago. So while I was editing this, I really went back and forth a lot as I realized and remembered how in depth and how really sick this all was. Should I post this? Should I not post this? And what it ultimately came down to is I really felt like I should post this because watching this, God, whoa, I did not expect to get emotional on this intro. Watching this, I'm realizing and remembering, especially all the stuff that I've finally fleshed out in like therapy and with self-reflection and journaling. I was caught in a very emotionally abusive, manipulative relationship with a boy who I convinced myself wasn't that guy. You know, this kid, when you meet him, he just seems so nice, and the way he presents himself is honest and caring and loving. But when I just think back at, and I don't even scratch the surface of it in this video, but just, you know, the 6 or so months we were together, just the lies and the manipulation and pretending to be someone he wasn't. Like, you know, from the beginning, like, he lied about what he did for a living. He lied about everything. And because of how much I wanted a relationship at that time and how vulnerable I felt, and because I was dealing with so much in the rest of my life and the rest of my personal life, I let that happen. And I allowed myself to be in a situation where I was being manipulated and I was being emotionally abused. So I'm hoping that by sharing this, maybe there's some people out there who are stuck in a similar situation and you're ignoring red flags and you're letting too much slide and you're forgiving things that you shouldn't and you're letting people make excuses and you're making excuses for people, and maybe seeing this will be like a light bulb for you and you'll be able to get out of that. Or in the future, if you're in this, maybe you'll remember this story. It will help you then. Watching this girl, honestly, this is embarrassing. Like, that was another reason I kind of didn't want to post it, is because there's moments where I'm just like, it's humiliating for me. Like, in this story, you'll see I asked to see his phone. And that's not who the fuck I am. But he pushed me to like this point where I was somebody I wasn't. He preyed on my weakness and my vulnerability, and it's just, you know, in hindsight, this is hard to watch. And then watching the way I'm telling this story, how just wound up and hurt and confused and just spiraling I am. It's really sad. And also at the very end, I'm going to include an update, so that'll be at the very end here. So yeah, this is actually really hard for me to post. It's really embarrassing for me to post. I was in such a different place mentally and emotionally, and I'm so happy to be out of that situation and where I am and who I am today. I feel so good, and this is such a learning experience. And I'm in this weird position where I do have these time capsules of emotions and lessons and stories, and in hindsight, God, hindsight really is 2020, huh? So yeah, hopefully this might help somebody. Welcome back! About 2 weeks before I decided I don't ever want to speak to this person again, we got into an argument where he said, I know that you'll want to go make a video about this. I know you love to attack people when they have no platform to defend themselves. The irony is, up until he said that, I hadn't ever even considered it. It never crossed my mind. I've had 3 boyfriends in my life before him, and I've never made a video about any of them. So even he must have realized before I even did that his bullshit was really story-worthy. Secondly, I found out that he's been telling blatant lies about me, so this feels fair to me. Plus, hey, my favorite part of my job is I get to monetize all of my emotional trauma, so let's set the record straight and get a paycheck. I've never made a video about somebody where you could find and identify them, well, not on purpose, at least. But I've never shown this boy's face, I've never breathed this boy's name, he doesn't even have social media, so if at some point you think you found it, you didn't. Also, I'd like to say that a lot of times people will look down on YouTubers for telling stories like this on their channel, but I don't think that's fair. If I was an author and I wrote a memoir and told the story in my memoir, nobody would blink twice. Think twice? Nobody would bat an eye. This is a chapter in my memoir. The time I dated a compulsive liar. And also I want to start by saying that obviously in the beginning at least, there were things I really, really liked and loved about him, or at least who he was pretending to be. We had some really fun times together, but that wouldn't make a very interesting story, would it? God, I have a million stories that I could tell about this guy. In fact, I wrote down every time I caught him in a lie that he couldn't dig himself out of because he had forgotten the lies that he had previously told me, and every time he tried to gaslight me or manipulate me, and this is how long it was. It's gonna be a really good book someday. Speaking of memoirs, today out of all of these stories, I'm going to focus on 2. I'm going to tell you a story of something he lied about continuously to me from the first 2 weeks of our relationship until the very end, and I'm going to tell you the story of my last straw with him, and they kind of bleed into each other. Okay, so before this point, when we had met, he had never smoked weed. I don't smoke weed, like, ever. I don't have anything against it. It's legal in California. In fact, it's legal everywhere now. I have friends who smoke all the time, so he asked me if I would get him high. Since I don't really smoke, I've literally never purchased weed in my life. I told him that one day soon I would have my friend bring some over, he could meet her, and he could get high. He asked me about it so many times, and it just never really worked out. One night he told me he was going to a party. He texted me around 10 p.m. and he was already leaving the party, and he asked me if he could come over and see me. I told him to come by. As soon as he got out of his car, he said, I got high tonight. So I laughed and I was shocked and I was like, what? And I told him I was super jealous because I wanted to see him get high for the first time because it's just a fun thing to do. So then I said, who got you high? And he said, some random girl at the party I never met. I don't even remember her name. Then he told me that this girl who got him high tried to kiss him. And I said, you didn't even know her? You don't know her name? And he said, nope, it was just some girl who sat next to me, asked me if I wanted to smoke, and then once I did, she tried to kiss me. At this point, I'd only been dating him for, I believe, a month, and we weren't exclusive. Plus, he told me that he didn't kiss her, so I literally did not care at all. Side note, that will be very important later. This guy literally only exclusively has female friends. The only guy friend he has is his female roommate's husband. Exclusively females. He goes to movies with them, he goes to dinners with them, he goes to Disneyland with them. I don't care. Most of my friends have almost always been exclusively men who I've never even been sexually attracted to or who have not been sexually attracted to me. Have female friends. Females are cool. I get it. I feel you. We're dope. Now, he also told me about this girl. Let's call her Pistachio. Right off the bat, let me say I have no ill feelings toward Pistachio. I don't know Pistachio. Never met Pistachio. I'm sure she's great. But he told me he met Pistachio on Tinder. And I was like, so you met her on Tinder, but you guys never went out? Like you never liked each other? And he said, no, the first time we met, she actually just wanted to hook up where I work. So she asked me if I could hook her up, and like that's how we met. We were always ever just friends. He told me he had no interest whatsoever right away. He knew he wasn't into her. And I was like, okay, cool, seems fine. Let's fast forward a bit. So one night he tells me that Pistachio had been texting him to come over and hang out with her late at night, alone. And I was like, does she know about me? And he said, yeah. And I said, and she still asks you to come over and hang out with you alone late at night? And he said, yeah. So now I I don't really like Pistachio, but I would never tell him that he can't be friends with her. We're not really exclusive at this point, but then he offers it up. He volunteers. He goes, if you don't want me to talk to her, I won't talk to her anymore. And I said, no, don't do that for me because that's just gonna cause weird tension. And he said, no, trust me, like I really don't like her anyways. We don't really have anything in common. We're just sort of acquaintances. I won't talk to her anymore. I didn't really think much of it. I was kind of uncomfortable about it, but the fact that he just volunteered that without me saying anything made me feel like, I don't know, it made me feel like he cared, I guess. I had no reason not to believe him at this point. Anyways, let's fast forward a little bit more. One day he tells me, hey, one of my friends got hired to work where your friend works. Let's call that friend Lima Bean. And I was like, no way, that's so cool. Now he didn't tell me who got hired to work with Lima Bean, and I didn't ask because I don't really know all of his friends anyway, so it didn't make a difference. But not long after, Lima Bean texted me and said, hey, some girl named Pistachio just got hired here. She said she got your boyfriend high for the first time. I'm gonna give you a second to let that sink in. Now let me catch you up. This stranger that got him high for the first time. You know, the girl he told me was a random girl at a party? Oh, by the way, I found out later that this was a party that she invited him to that he didn't know anyone else. So he was alone at a party with this girl where they spent the entire night together because he didn't know anybody else. The one that got him high and tried to make out with him, that wasn't a stranger at all. That was Pistachio. You know, the girl he met on Tinder who he said would ask him to come over late at night all the time. So not only did he lie to me about who she was, but he knew that she got hired where my friend works, which means they still obviously talk and have an active friendship, which he said he didn't. So already we have all of these instances where he lied about something that didn't matter. He went to a party with a girl who he says is just a friend and who knows, and she got him high. At that point we'd only been dating for I think less than a month. Why wouldn't he just say, I went with my friend got me high? Why would he have to say, I'm getting ahead of myself, let me continue. So I confronted him about it. He stood there not saying anything like a f***ing idiot every time I caught him in a lie. Let's move on. I'm upset because he's talking to this girl behind my back who he lied about who she was. She tried to kiss him, and then he tells me she didn't ever actually try to kiss me that night. We just hung out and she asked me if I wanted to smoke. He said she never actually asked me to come over late at night. And I said, well, why would you tell me that she would try to kiss you then? Wouldn't it make more sense that you would try to tell me someone didn't try to kiss you? And he said he made it up to make me feel jealous because he was insecure because he felt like I had a lot of different guys that I could date. He felt like I was out of his league. I am. And he wanted me to feel like he had options too. So at this point, I have no idea what is the lie. Is the lie that she tried to kiss him? Or did she try to kiss him and he wanted it to seem like less of a big deal so that he could continue to be friends with her? Here's the thing about being a liar. When you finally tell the truth, nobody knows if they can believe you. So he promised me over and over and over again that she never actually tried to kiss him, but he absolutely didn't want to talk to her. He had no interest in being her friend. The only time he talked to her was when she texted him to let him know that she got hired where my friend works. He said she's boring, she's annoying, he doesn't want to be her friend anyway. We were going to a concert that night. We were both fully ready to go, and I forgave him because at this point I really cared about him a lot. I didn't want to break up with somebody just because of something that they were describing as them acting out of being insecure and dumb. Now let's fast forward about 3 months. We were stuck going to a trip to India together, which is a whole other story. In those 3 months, so much has happened, but I have to keep this somewhat contained. So just know that a lot of shit went down and I'm so over it, but I literally have to bring him to India with me. But honestly, the couple days leading up to and the morning we were leaving, we were having a really good time and I felt excited and positive, and he was being excited and positive. He's being extra affectionate, telling me how much he loves me, how much he loves spending time with me. He's like laying on the PDA, which I'm not super comfortable with, but it was kind of cute. Honestly, we were having a nice old time. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna get to this later, but this was a little lie that he also liked to tell. Apparently, I found this out the last time I saw him. He was telling people in his life, his friends and his family, that we weren't dating, but we were. He wanted to see me every day, he wanted to kiss, he wanted to cuddle, he wanted to hold hands, he wanted to go on dates, he wanted to hook up, he wanted all of it. Then as we're boarding our first class flight to India, which he didn't have to pay a cent for, he had his phone next to me and I noticed he got a text from an initial. Weird, everyone in his phone is saved by their first and last name, so why is this one person an initial? So I asked him, who is that? And he sat there, silent and dumb. I said again, who is that? And he said, Pistachio. So I said, why is Pistachio saved in your phone as an initial? And he said, that's just how I have her saved. And I said, well, I've seen her full name on your home screen before, so when did you change it to an initial? And he said, the night of the concert. You know, the night I found out that he had been lying about her for months. So again, in case you're having trouble keeping up, I know it's hard to keep track of all the lies. The night he got caught lying about some girl, he told me he didn't want to talk to her anymore and wasn't going to. He changed her name in his phone so that he could continue talking to her without me knowing. And he wasn't even smart enough to change her name in his phone in a way that wouldn't look suspicious. You can't be a compulsive liar and dumb. You have to pick a struggle. Now hand to everything right now. Up until this point, I had never asked to look in his phone. But at this point, there was no way I wasn't. So I said, give it. And I scrolled up just a little bit and she was the very first person he texted when we broke up the first time. And judging from the timestamp, it was almost immediately. And the reason he told her, the reason we broke up, he told her she was jealous and anxious of me talking to other girls. All of his friends are females. All of them. He lives with a female. He bought all of these females Christmas presents. He goes to movie theaters and dinners alone with these females. And I never gave him a problem. I trusted him. I believed him when he told me that he wasn't attracted to them. The only time I ever had an issue was with a girl who asked him to hang out late at night alone, who got him high and tried to kiss him, and then he felt the need to lie about who that was, and then she didn't actually try to kiss him, but he just wanted to use her to make me jealous. The one he went out of his way to convince me that he wasn't talking to and didn't want to talk to, even though I never asked, even though I told him I would never tell him that he can't be friends with a female, but he was talking to the entire time. That girl. That time I had a little bit of an issue. When he gave me his reasoning, I accepted it, even though it's so stupid and it was just lies on lies and lies and lies and lies. I understood the logic, even though, oh God, this is why I have so many problems, is I just make excuses for people where it's like, no, you lied, and here I am still justifying it, still making an excuse for him, like, oh, well, he didn't want me to feel uncomfortable about them hanging out, but it's like, well, I found out about it I'm out of breath. Anyway, on our way to India. We're stuck on a 20-hour flight together, and then we're stuck in India alone for a week together. If I had been home when this happened, I would have cut him out of my life on the spot. So there's no way out of this, and I was trying to think of a way that I could make this right so I could get through this nightmare of a week on this trip that I didn't even want him to come to. And he said, Gabby, I promise I'll never talk to her again. Right. And that's the thing, is I never wanted him to not ever talk to her again. I never wanted them to not be friends. I've never asked that. All I've ever asked for from him and anybody is honesty. So I said, I know what you can do to make this situation right. If you mean everything you say, if she never actually tried to kiss you, if she never actually asked you to come over late at night, then type a message confessing all of those lies to her. Tell her that you changed her name in your phone and explain to her what me being a jealous girlfriend actually was, which was you consistently lying about her to me to make me uncomfortable and jealous. Because I'm a lot of things, but I am not a jealous girlfriend. He readily agreed. He typed it all out and he confessed it all and he sent it to her. I then had to remind him to apologize to her for making up so many lies about her because that hadn't even crossed his mind. And then she wrote back basically saying, wow, that's a lot. I hope that you learned your lesson about lying. But once again, here's the thing about lying. You never know where the lie ends. Do I want to believe that none of that stuff was true and that there was nothing between them? Yeah, I do. And 99.9% of me believes that that is true. But there is the 0.1% in my brain that will always be there that thinks if there was something between them, she would lie too. For him. Like, if you're the other woman and you get a long ass text like that, you think, oh shit, it's his girlfriend, she must have caught him, I'm gonna play along. Do I think that's the case? Probably not. But honestly, I can never know for sure. So he sent that message. It made me feel a little bit better. We actually had a decent time in India. At this point, we're back in America. I'm so over it mentally, emotionally. He promised me he wasn't gonna text her again about the situation without me knowing about it, and he did, of course, and it caused another fight. And after this horrible late night argument, I think we both just decided we gotta stop. But then he texted me goodnight that night. And then he texted me in the morning. And then he texted me goodnight that night again. And then he texted me throughout the day, the next day. I never initiated a conversation. I always let him answer last, and I always kept it short. I was over it and feeling good. And I had met somebody else. And I was finding a love for my work again. I realized that so many of my problems and my declining mental state started improving when he wasn't a part of my life. I'm not blaming him for my mental health, because we all know I have mental health problems. I have really severe depression, really severe anxiety, but he was worsening them. We had just become toxic, and I say we became toxic. I'm not saying he was a very toxic person, but us together was toxic. He lied to me constantly. He was always playing mind games with me. And after our last fight, after India, I was just really ready to move on. But even though we agreed to stop talking, he kept texting me. And he said, "You seem to be doing really well." And I said, "I am." And I meant it. I felt good for the first time in a very long time. He said he didn't want to lose me in his life. I told him that this had become a toxic situation. I had no intention of putting him back into a toxic situation. Stop worrying about me and just worry about yourself. So this is one of those things that I think needs clarification, because it's going to matter in a little bit. When I sent him that text, that was me trying to place, how do I say this? I kept saying to him over and over that I didn't want to see him again, and I think that we just needed to call it what it was, and we had a great run, but we just aren't right together. And he kept pushing to be together again and see each other again. So instead of making him feel rejected, I tried to say it in a way that's like, worry about yourself. Like, you don't have to worry about trying to fix the situation. Worry about you. Anyway, that'll matter later. So after about 2 weeks of him texting me good night every night and good morning every morning and asking me relentlessly to hang out, to see me, to go on a date, me telling him persistently that I didn't think it was a good idea and I was doing really well, finally I broke down and I told him I might be willing to try it out. We set very specific limitations and boundaries of what we were expecting of one another. I told him mine, I asked him his, and we both agreed on a situation that felt good for both of us. He planned a really nice date for us. So then, the morning of, he sends me a text message that I won't embarrass him by sharing, but we got into a fight about it and we didn't end up hanging out that night. I was so livid, and I've never been more livid. After prodding me to hang out for 2 weeks straight and me dismissing it. Even after we made plans, I almost backed out of it a couple times because I was so nervous that he would pull some like this and I would be let down. And after he spent 2 days promising me that everything was fine, that we had agreed on something and that we were gonna have a nice time, nothing would go wrong, it did. And then he has the nerve to tell me during this fight, "You're the one who came back to me." In what universe? How many mental backflips did you have to do to reach that conclusion? You mean to tell me you text me every single day when I say I'm done with this, ask me to hang out consistently for 2 weeks straight, and I finally say, okay, that's me coming to you? This is when I realized, okay, wow, he's either delusional or will just never accept any responsibility, or both. And then my mind just started reeling with all the times that he did this exact thing where he would force a situation on me or convince me to do something. And then if he felt guilty, then he would try to convince me it was my idea, even though he initiated everything. It was that night that I really did just stop caring about it completely. We hung out a couple more times and honestly, we had a really good time. I think it was because I didn't care anymore that I was able to enjoy our dates and our time together, because I wasn't focused on what a pathological liar he was. But really quickly, I got very bored with pretending. So here was my final straw. We went out on a date, which again is something he lied very much to other people about. So he admits to me now that he tells people that we're just friends and that we weren't dating. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. So I'm not the only person that you lie to. That's a relief at least. It's just, it makes me so angry because this kid begged to go on dates and he called them dates. He wanted to hold my hand, he wanted to kiss, he wanted to cuddle, he wanted to sleep over, he wanted to tell me he loved me, he wanted to hear that I loved him. We never stopped any of that. But to the rest of the world, none of that was happening. To them, he was just being a good friend to me in a time of need. I'll get there. This will make more sense in a minute, but I'm gonna place it here in case it doesn't link up or play out, whatever. I found out that he had been telling people for months that we had broken up. But because I would still be posting pictures with him and like we would go on a date and I would post stuff to my story. A lot of you guys knew him as the mystery man on my Instagram. I wanted to post things that like were happy memories, and you know, people like to post pictures with their boyfriends and girlfriends, but I didn't want to ever really have that fully public thing, so I'd post pictures and scribble out his face. So his friends and his family would see that, but he had told all of them that we broke up. So Apparently, what he had been telling them was we were broken up, but we were still hanging out as friends because I needed him as a friend. If he left my life, I would kill myself. But you'll get more of that later. All of a sudden, it was making so much sense why he tried so hard recently to keep me away from his friends. He used to beg me to hang out with them. He wanted me to like them so much. I knew that they liked me because the night I met them, they texted him and said, we really love her. She's so great. We're so happy for you. But now he wanted to keep us apart. It hurt my feelings a lot that he would never include me in his group activities. Like, yeah, hang out with your friends alone. Of course, I want you to do that. I've never discouraged him from doing that. But if you're all going on like a day-long trip to Disney, or if you're all going to dinner and then going to a movie, like, why can't I come sometimes? Especially when he used to want me to so badly. But I realized he couldn't because he's telling them all of this stuff about our relationship that wasn't true. So when him and I hang out, we're holding hands, he kisses me all the time, he has his arm around me all the time. So either he's not going to in front of his friends and I'm gonna be like, what's up? Or he does and he's gonna look like an ass in front of his friends because he's telling them that we're not together all the time. So, if I'm being honest with myself and you, I think that I was looking for a reason that night to finally end the game. I'm the type of person, thanks to my fucked up childhood, if you want to be in my life, if you tell me you can't lose me, if you beg me to stay, if you're persistent, I will stay there, even if you're hurting me, even if I know how much better it felt when you were gone. So I needed something stronger than the lies and the manipulation. I needed something that I couldn't forgive. So I trusted him with a lot of very personal, emotional things regarding my mental health. Things he pulled out of me. Things he asked me to share because he had so much to share and it made him feel better knowing that I felt that way. I've always asked him if he ever shared those things with anybody else and he said no. So many times he promised me over and over that he's never told anybody or showed anybody anything that I was saying. So, hand to everything. This is only the second time I've ever asked to see his phone. I said, type my name into the search bar of your iMessages. Some of you see where this is going. He didn't want to show me. He tried to play it off. He tried to change the subject and I told him, if you don't show me, then I'm gonna know there's something there and you can just leave now. So he slowly typed in my name and all the times he said my name popped up. I only had to really go through one. I clicked it and opened it and of course there's just a spew of lies, first of all. But that's not what got me. I'm used to that at this point. I saw that he had copy and pasted some of my personal, very vulnerable messages. Okay, so this is one of those pieces that I need to clarify because I didn't say it in here because again, I didn't think I was ever gonna post it, but in order for you guys to get full context, you need to know what I said, and I'm in a place now where I'm emotionally okay enough that I can be open with my truth and what I was going through. There was one point where, as you guys know, I went through, again, a really, really tough year with my mental health, and he was always really, really open with me about things that he was feeling and let me in on some really dark thoughts. So I felt that I could also be open and vulnerable with him. And one day when I was just feeling really, really down, I said something, I could find the exact text, I have everything still on my old computer messages, but I told him that it felt like I cause pain and destruction everywhere I go, and God, it's so sad. I'm a burden to everybody around me, and it feels like I can't do anything right. And something along the lines of me feeling like I was some type of anomaly or mistake, which is a very dark thing to say, and a lot for one person to shoulder. But again, he was always so, I'll never say what he said to me, but the level of things that he would say to me, I felt that we were in a place that we could share those things, and he always encouraged me to share those thoughts and was always very responsive and kind in those moments. But I've always been very, very careful. I've always been very careful when saying these things to him and being open about my feelings, to let him know, I don't want you to think that when I tell you these things that I'm trying to manipulate you or make you feel like you're responsible for me. Like, this is just me expressing thoughts and feelings. And he would always say, no, I totally understand. Like, I like when you tell me this stuff because then I feel like I can tell you this stuff back. I want you to be open with me. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to share things with me. That was a trust that I could never get back. It makes me sad thinking about it right now. But that was something I couldn't forgive, and I will never forgive. Because I would never ever share the personal things that he told me with anyone. Those personal things, those dark feelings that he's never told anybody else. I wouldn't share those, and I assumed he wouldn't either. But he did, and I only looked at one. Who knows if I kept looking, and who knows what's been said face to face over the phone. But that's really not even it. Here's the part that really trips me up. One of the messages he sent was the one where I said, this is a toxic situation. I have no intention of putting you back into one. Don't worry about me, worry about yourself. I thought, why would he copy and paste that? Why wouldn't he screenshot it? That's what people normally do, right? They screenshot if they want to share a text with somebody. And then I realized why. Had he screenshotted it, the person he sent it to would be able to see all the messages surrounding it. They would have seen where he texts me and I don't respond. They would have seen him saying that I seem to be doing well and me saying that I am doing really well. You would have seen him asking me to hang out and me saying it wasn't a good idea. But he didn't want anybody to see that. He wanted to take a part that made it seem like I wasn't doing okay without him. And then he accompanied it with a text saying, she's just so sad, I don't know what to do. Here's the best part. As I was reading this, he said, hey, this is a personal conversation between me and this person. Oh, really? Your conversation where you're sharing my personal messages is your personal conversation? Should I respect your privacy in sharing my private messages? Honestly, I'll never understand why. Why did he want everything to look so different to the rest of the world than what was actually happening? Why would he take the one part of the text that might make it look like I needed him when all the texts around it were saying that I was okay? He lied to me so often about these little things that just, they didn't matter, and I didn't know why he would bother lying because it didn't matter. Like, he'd tell me he had McDonald's for lunch if he had Chick-fil-A. You know what I mean? It's stuff that doesn't matter. But I really think that he just wanted to be the hero. I remember the first time I cried in front of him. I was so embarrassed, and he said, I actually really like it when you're sad. It makes me feel like you need me. It makes me feel like I can take care of you. Which at the time sounded really sweet and made me feel very loved and secure. But now it just has a whole different meaning. So I think that's what he wanted to do. I think that was the picture that he really wanted to paint. He was my hero who always played the victim. But that is what I needed to see. I finally felt free. It's sad that looking back at our time together, it's hard for me to find any type of positive feelings. And trust me, I've tried. But anytime I think of a good memory or something positive he contributed to my life, my mind is just swarmed with all of the lies and manipulation that surrounded that time. That sucks. It sucks when somebody doesn't respect you enough to be honest with you, because I've never been perfect, but I've always been honest. So I read the text, I handed him back his phone, and I said, I think we should call it a night, and he tried to talk about it for a minute, and I said, no, just please leave. And we never spoke again. I'll probably always wonder a little bit how much he's shared and what lies he's told, in what ways he's manipulated my words, what messages he's taken out of context to make it look like he was some sort of hero, who thinks what of me, what opinions were formed on misinformation, but I'll never know. But hey, thank God I have a platform to defend myself. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, I love you very much. Thanks for being a part of my family, and I'll see you next time. Okay, so here I am. It is, what, maybe 3 months later. We broke up in April. And all I can really keep thinking as I watch that back in the edit is none of this is okay. None of it's okay. The fact that, like, in this video, I'm like, and I swear, this is only the second time I looked at his phone. No time is okay. You know, I never looked through his phone in the way that, are you talking to girls? Like, there was always a trigger of, wait, who's this? Why do you have this person saved as an initial? You must be saying something wrong. But I always told myself I'd never be that girl. At the end of the day, if you don't trust somebody to the point where you say, let me see your phone, you need to break up with that person. If you're looking for proof that somebody is or isn't lying to you or cheating on you or whatever it is, then that's just not a healthy relationship, and that clearly was not a healthy relationship. Me justifying his lies was not a healthy relationship. Me wanting so badly for it to work that I was seeing past those things is not okay. And also on my end, I don't know the answer to what is a healthy level of sharing when it comes to your feelings in a relationship. And I say multiple times in this video, I felt like I could be open with him because he was so open with me. But the thing that I rack my brain over is why he would say that. First of all, why he pretended we broke up to the outside. That was very confusing. But also why he would say that I said, if he left me, I would kill myself. Or if he wasn't my friend, I would kill myself. I don't know specifically what it was, but I know I've never said that. And I can't decide if he made it up on purpose because he has some type of hero complex where he wants to feel like a savior, or if he truly in his heart perceived the things that I was saying as that. Like, even though I always made sure to tell him, like, I want you to think I'm telling you this because I'm trying to manipulate you into this or that, and he always said he knew that I wouldn't do that and I would never do that, does he still think that that was the message that I was sending subliminally? So to him, that was his interpretation. So he wasn't lying, he just thought that that's what I meant. Or, and this is what I think at this point, again, he's told me things that I would never share with the world. It just feels like so much projection of his own feelings. And that's really the only thing I can ever really land on, is he felt things, so he wanted to put that onto me. I don't know. What I do know is this was obviously a very extremely unhealthy relationship. And if you are noticing any of these signs, if you're ever distrustful, if you're ever catching somebody in multiple lies, if there's ever a time where somebody's making too many excuses or hiding things, that's not healthy. And don't let somebody gaslight you and make you believe you're wrong. I asked him to delete our conversations because he proved to me that he was willing to send people our personal messages and take them out of context and use them how he wanted. And then I also found out that he was sharing personal information about my family and my friends that I trusted him with, like sharing really personal details about like my childhood. It just sucks. Anyway, learn from my mistakes. I love you guys. Bye. Say what